Hello and welcome back to Tungsten Tales. We're here today to take you through the fixtures and the preview for the 2021 Premier League, joined as ever by Sam Gill from Darts News. Premier League starts this Monday with the first 5 nights of action at the Marshall Arena in Milton Keynes, then a 10-day gap before we're taken all the way up to Judgment Day on, I believe, night 9, where we will lose a couple of players for the second stage. It's an interesting lineup this year, that being players that maybe aren't in the greatest form, and it's going to throw up some very surprising results. We'll run through our predictions and who we think is going to place where in the table a little later on, but just your thoughts on the lineup, really, Sam.
Yeah, to be fair, I wouldn't say I'm a massive fan of it. I think it's the worst lineup in years, but of course it's behind closed doors, so it's a bit better than if we actually had fans in the arenas. Of course, we could end up getting them from the second half with the pilot events in May, but I think it's the best of a bad bunch. And we've kind of had this debate before. I'd kind of interchange a few names, lots of James Wade, Dirk van Dijvenbode are in, but of course we've had a lot of weird major champions over the past year, and certain players such as Nathan Aspinall and Rob Cross that have to be picked off based off merit. Of course, I'm not reached the Premier League final, but I would kind of say I'd have those two as the bottom two at the moment, before we end up going on to predictions later on in the video. But yeah, I kind of say it's the worst Premier League lineup in years, but behind closed doors it can't really be helped, and it's kind of good that we have this year, hopefully, before we inevitably potentially get a shake up in 2022, which I think the Premier League's been needing for years. I'm kind of indifferent on it. I can kind of see it from a casual fan point of view, but from somebody who covers the sport as extensively as me, it's not really a big deal. Of course, it ends up bringing the views in and the traffic, but barring that, for us guys, it's not really for us. So I can kind of see it from both point of views, but I kind of say it's the worst lineup in years. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, look at the players that have included that you would possibly think about taking out, the likes of Cross. He was world number 4 at the time when it was picked. You could even have seen in debates online the likes of Gary Anderson, Dimitri Vandenberg. But you've got to say now they're sort of household names, and they're going to bring viewers in. Especially Dimitri Vandenberg is really popular now, and he might not be the cup of tea of everybody. I know yourself. You're not a huge fan of watching Dimitri, and neither am I, particularly.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's going to bring viewers in. I mean, I'm sure there's a much higher viewership for a player like Rob Cross or Dimitri Vandenberg than there is to a Dirk van Dijvenbode, for example. As a casual darts fan, you'd probably rather watch a Rob Cross, but as someone who watches every tournament and reports on every tournament, you'd rather see an upcoming star like a Van Dijvenbode, and there's plenty more names I could jump on, but we've gone over them before. Obviously we know the format of the Premier League. It's top 4 going to a playoff system, and you have to say it's quite interesting with the amount of players out of form. I'm not saying that the standard is going to be the highest it's ever been, but with the players you've got out of form, Michael van Gerwen's not playing the best he's ever played. Peter Wright sort of he's in and out at the moment. Gerwyn Price looks like he's somewhere near where
he's
he
there
was.
or thereabouts.
Yeah, and even Gary Anderson looks like he's playing well. And when he's stuck in a venue for a few days, he can produce some really good stuff like he did in the Premier League last year. So yeah, players not in form, but it's going to be an interesting race.
Of course, as well with Johnny Clayton being the Masters champion, and probably something which I never thought I'd say at the start of the year, the top player in the world as such this year. He's going to be an interesting dynamic, and a pick at the time at the Masters that I was kind of about. I wasn't a big fan. I'd rather, of course, have Mervyn in the league as a big fan of Mervyn, but it is what it is. Of course, Glenn Dorrant is the Premier League champion. He's probably the most out of form Premier League champion we've ever had. Of course, MVG has been in and out. Is he back? Is he not? Time will tell in terms of whether or not he uses the old faithfuls or the new darts. Gerwyn Price, like you say, he's kind of there or thereabouts, but he's in and out of form. Same with Peter Wright. it's an interesting dynamic as a result. You know, how is it all going to go down? We could end up having a completely different top four like last year, and we could see a lot of big names go out, and a lot of the new boys kind of come to the fore on the big stage, especially if we end up having fans towards the end. It will kind of be a big test of those sort of players, like Jose de Souza. Dimmy, of course, loves the crowd, you know, and other players like that in terms of how they're going to cope with the potential of fans. If it does end up a pilot event, a bit like the snooker, and we do end up getting some fans in around May time, going up to the World Match Play, when hopefully we will have a full arena back in the darts. But yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, however you look at it this year in terms of the Premier League. But yeah, on paper, I wouldn't say it's great at the moment, but you know, time will tell.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Clayton as well, because he is the most formed player in 2021. There's no denying that, really. And the format is very, very similar to those Pro Tours that he's had an awful lot of success in. The first to 6, obviously it's 7, 6 for a draw in the Premier League. Obviously it goes up to 7 at the semi-final stage of a Pro Tour. He's had an awful lot of success on the Pro Tour, as has Jose de Souza. So those sort of players are going to be very, very dangerous over these short bursts. Jose de Souza is more than capable of those big 105, 108 averages, as is Dimitri Vandenberg on TV. So the new additions are going to really, really bring something. And I think it might be some of the more recognised names. You mentioned the Premier League champion Glenn Durrant is coming into this on pretty much no form at all. Nathan Aspinall hasn't really done much over the last year or so.
He's been all right in patches on the Pro Tour recently. Yeah. He's reached a few latter stages, but of course you can't really bring that on. Of course, Anderson hasn't played that well on the Pro Tour, but on the big stage is a different animal. So, and you never know which Anderson's going to turn up. So whether or not he's been practicing, whether or not he's been putting the effort in, of course, shortly he might even be able to practice with Ryan Searle and get that partnership going, which, you know, it'll be brilliant to see. But, you know, it'll be interesting to see with players like him. Of course, Van Gogh, and we haven't even seen in a while. He ended up skipping the Pro Tours, and to be fair, at the UK Open, barring reaching the latter stages when he ended up losing out to an inspired Luke Humphries, he hasn't really looked comfortable at all, and he's been chopping and changing darts. So yes, it's very interesting to see where those sort of players, like you say, with the top 4 in the world that we kind of had at the start of the year. No one's really in that great form at the moment, barring Johnny Clayton. So.
Yeah, I think Gary Anderson is, as always, one of the interesting ones. Last year, obviously, reached a match play and a World Championship final on the back of no particularly good run of form. So if he's able to be in a venue for 5 days and then obviously a 10-day off before another shot at the Premier League lot, then Gary Anderson is more than capable of, well, not blitzing the pack, but definitely beating everybody that's in that Premier League lineup this year, that's for sure. So for me, Gary Anderson's a really, really interesting one. We'll quick look at the fixtures for the opening few nights. I mean, that opening night game between Aspinall and Durrant could be absolutely huge on night one. They're 2 players you would probably expect on form to be down the bottom, and a win on that opening night would be huge, wouldn't it, Sam?
Yeah. So it's kind of showing a completely different complexion to, of course, the Premier League final, which to be fair, it wasn't that great in general. Neither was finals night, as you well know from watching it, and no player really turned up. No matter Durrant, of course, playing Peter Wright, it was just a woeful game, and it's a completely different complexion. No players in form, and it's those top two games. You know, Aspinall, Durrant crossed de Souza, 4 players who, barring de Souza, I'll probably say in a way, you know, 4 players that aren't really on form. And then you kind of have the 3 games following that, which could go either way between the 3 players. I kind of say even that Van Gogh and Vandenberg tie. You know, Vandenberg just moved to the UK. He's moved to my neck of the woods in Leicester, where I'm currently residing. And so it'd be interesting to see how he deals with living in England full time, and how that kind of helps or hinders his darting career going forward.
Yeah, he didn't actually really in the UK, but
recently, yeah.
There's 2 ways that can go. Obviously, he's got family back home, and that is going to be a miss for him. But there's less distractions, more focus on darts, and I think when Dimmy focuses on darts, he's a very dangerous player. Looking at night 2, standout obviously Michael van Gerwen against Peter Wright after the recent comments by Peter Wright that Michael van Gerwen won't win a TV title in 2021, sorry. Do you think that is, where's that coming from, Sam? Where's that coming from?
I don't know, to be honest, with that one, Josh. Like, I'm kind of, I don't know if he will win a TV title. Of course, I'm always a critic of Van Gaal when it comes to form, how he's playing, and how people say he's back when he's not back. You know, we end up seeing it towards the back end of last year with a lot of TV majors, when I end up rightfully predicting that he'd win the Players, and then. But of course, because he's had just some inspired performances against him, lots of Dave Chisnall, Luke Humphries have kind of dealt with him as of late. Johnny Clayton at the Masters was similar 2 years in a row. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Of course, with Wright, he's coming into this event. Even then, it depends what darts he uses often. Often with Peter Wright, if he uses the diamond or the Euro element darts, you know, in my opinion, he'll be better off than the ones he was using in the Pro Tour towards the start of the year, the old stumpy barrels, which weren't great. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. Like we don't know either way it's going to go. But of course, for you as a channel, it'd be good for views post match. Whoever comes through that match.
Yeah, going to be an interesting one. I'm sure Michael's seen the comments from Peter, and he'll be more than up for that game. And I would probably make Michael van Gerwen a favourite because of those comments.
Slightly.
You look a little bit down the order. Obviously, there's plenty of games you could touch on. Jose de Souza against Johnny Clayton could be a decent game on night 3, night 4. Price against Van Gerwen is a very, very big game. But there's just so many games. You look at those bottom, the names you'd expect to be near the bottom, the likes of your Durrants, your Aspinalls, your Crossers, and the games don't get any easier, do they? The players they've got to play every single week, and it's hard to see where they're going to pick up the wins and pick up the points to push towards those playoff places.
Yeah, I think for certain players it could be a drift. Could be a drift after the first half. First 4 nights, even for some players, you know, depending on what run you could have 2 players that cut adrift quite early, especially with the format being, of course, 5 nights in a row. If you don't get him, Rob Cross ended up showing it last year. If you don't end up getting into a rhythm, you and Daryl Gurney, even though he came back in the end, it could be that. Of course, certain players like Jose might end up thriving on. He might end up thriving on the behind closed doors, having won a major title. Same with Dimmy, but yes, I don't know who you kind of pick in terms of a bottom 2. Of course, Durrant hasn't been great on the floor as of late, but he could have been putting the practice in and could be getting stronger all the time, and could end up coming back for a real push there to go and defend his major title. Of course, it's a big year for him, having to defend so much money. So he's going to need a kick up the backside, and it could be the Premier League that ends up doing it for him.
Yeah, I think just to underestimate the champion. I'm going to pick my bottom 2 now, and it is Glenn Durrant and Rob Cross. But you look at Cross in particular. There are signs there that he's starting to throw some much better stuff. But I do just feel that it might come a little bit too soon for him. If the Premier League started a few months later, we might see a little bit more form. We don't quite know where his game is. We haven't seen a whole lot of him in 2021, obviously. But you say Glenn Durrant, he's got very, very little form going into this. You'd like to think he's been right on the practice board and going right at it, ready for the return of the Premier League. And I'm sure he has. I'm sure he has been on the practice board 4 or 5 hours a day. You know, Glenn Durrant, as well as me, he really doesn't shy away from the practice board. But you don't know what it's going to be like up on that stage. And if the confidence isn't there, and if the mental mindset isn't there, it could be a tough opening few nights for Glenn.
Yeah, I'm gonna be quite controversial on that. Of course, Glenn Durrant I'll end up picking, but I'll probably throw Nathan Aspinall into the mix. I think we're gonna lose both the champion and the the run out quite early. I think Aspinall's been chopping and changing with his darts as well. He's gone to new darts, then to old darts. It depends what he's going to use, because ultimately, like I said, he's had a few quarterfinals on Pro Tours. He's got to latter stages, and he has been performing all right. You can have hot streaks, but I just don't think he'll have enough. Of course, I think with especially on night two, when you end up having Price versus Cross. Price, as much as we big him up, he's not been that great in the Premier League over the years. He's been very poor and has said himself he doesn't really like Premier League, and it's all about him getting up for it, really, I'd say. And it could be a game that could end up being a draw. Of course, Cross D'Souza could be a draw, and you could be looking at him getting a few points on the board. But I'll probably say you are looking at those three. I'd maybe throw Anderson or Vandenberg into that party as well, and kind of have I kind of have them as outsiders to get relegated. Anderson not really in great form as of late. Dimmy, he's been good and bad. It's the whole lineup as a whole. We could end up having any complexion, but I'll probably say Durrant and Aspinall are four rows right now. If you're looking at betting odds, and of course Cross as well, if you're looking at betting odds before the tournament, I'll probably say them three are your main picks in my eyes.
Yeah, I can't really agree with them. In terms of the playoffs, it's obviously a competitive race this year, and my picks for the playoffs will be the world champion Gerwyn Price. He's playing probably better darts than anybody but Johnny Clayton at the moment. I'm going to pick Michael van Gerwen. I think he's got enough to get in there. I think he'll beat you can say the lower ranked players. I think he might struggle against some of the bigger names alongside him. But I think he's got enough, and he's still obviously an incredibly talented player. So I think Michael van Gerwen will have enough to get in there. I don't think Peter Wright has got enough to get into the playoffs this year. He's got form on the floor in terms of the last couple of Super Series events, but you look at his results from 2021 overall, the last 3 or 4 months, and it's not overly impressive. So I'm going to pick a couple of little wild cards in the shape of Gary Anderson and Jose de Souza. I like Gary Anderson when he gets in a rhythm, and I think this is the perfect sort of event for him to do that. He showed it at the match play, he showed it at the Worlds when he's got focus on an event and he's in a venue for a substantial amount of time. Gary Anderson's very dangerous. Jose de Souza, he's sort of been up and down in terms of his form. Don't really know what's going to turn up with Jose, but he looks cool, calm and collected, and I think the Premier League format really, really suits the Portuguese man of scores. Sam, picks for the playoffs?
I think personally, I think you're kind of looking at Price, Van Gerwen. I kind of agree with you. As I don't think we're ever going to have that spell like Van Gerwen's had in the Premier League in the past, where he's been utterly dominant. He's going to lose a lot of games, in my opinion, at times. But like you say, in terms of the likes of Cross, Durrant, Aspinall, he's going to. I mean, it's just going to be about the other players, whether or not they can do better than him. Of course, I think Price will take his form forward and show why he's world number one and world champion. He's not been great in the Premier League in the past, and to be fair, I'm going to kind of go for 2 outside picks as well in Jose de Souza and Johnny Clayton. Of course, Jose, like you say, he is what he is on the tin, and if he can produce that 100, 105 average, he'll blow away some of the field. Even though like some Michael van Gerwen and Gerwyn Price, he might be able to give like a real game and potentially pick a few points off there. Of course, Clayton as well, Masters champion. One of, if not the most informed player, alongside obviously Joe Cullen this year, and of course Cullen's not in it, so I'd probably say Clayton. I think he'll end up adapting to the format quite well, and we'll pick up some early points. Of course, he's got Peter Wright, Glenn Durham, Jose in the opening, Rob Cross, Gary Anderson, and some of those games are really winnable. So I think he's got an all right run to kind of start off before he ends up playing some of the big boys, like some Michael van Gerwen, the like to Gerwyn Price. He doesn't have to play them till towards the end of the first stint. So he could end up heading into the break a bit like Glenn Durrant last year when he ended up heading into COVID. Pardon the pun. He ended up heading into COVID as the table topper and ended up coming out champion because he accrued quite a lot of points and took that forward into the second half. And I think Clayton might do the same. We might even end up seeing him win the league phase this year. In my opinion, he's he's just very solid. And I think compared to some other people who might say, you know, you're looking at Price, Van Gerwen, Wright, and then one off about Anderson, Clayton, etc. That's big names and 2 surprises going through to the playoffs. A tiny bit like last year when we ended up having, much as Durham was the forerunner, Durham, Aspinall, Wright, and Anderson. You know, you've kind of got 2 big names there and two players that can kind of do it on the day, and they end up doing it on the day to reach the final. But I think for them, it's going to be relegation this year, and we're going to get 4 surprising and well-known names going into the playoffs at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think it's certainly time for the Premier League. Obviously, starting this Monday on Sky Sports. There's plenty of big fixtures to look forward to. We'll have previews with many of the players going into that, and obviously we'll be there. Well, we'll not be there. I'll be working from home in the evenings to bring in the interviews and the reaction from all of the Premier League matches. Thank you very much for joining me, Sam. Posting your predictions. I'm sure we'll be miles off, and Glenn Durham will reclaim his Premier League in around 6 months' time. But you never know. You never know. We might get 1 or 2 right. Thank you very much for joining us. If you want to post your predictions down below, please do so. I'm sure you do a lot better than us, and we'll see you soon.